Hello, and welcome to Service Animals and Assistant Animals, a presentation put on by Disability Services and ADA Compliance at the University of Colorado Boulder. In this presentation, we will go over the distinctions between service animals and assistance animals, what their roles are, policies surrounding them, as well as some guidelines for the CU community when it comes to service and assistance animals. This presentation was put together by Meg Murray, the Associate Director of Disability Services, and Maggie Higgins, Title I and II Program Manager in ADA Compliance. So, what animals can be a service animal? A service animal, in most cases, refers to any dog that is individually trained to work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability, including physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other mental disability. In some rare cases, miniature horses are also included as service animals. Under ADA, service animals are considered a medical device, similar to an oxygen tank. So, what does a service animal do? The work or tasks performed by a service animal must be directly related to the person's disability, including but not limited to assisting individuals with low vision or blindness, alerting individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing, pulling a wheelchair or stabilizing a person's gait, retrieving items such as medicine, food, or a telephone, and even recognizing and assisting a person having a seizure, or informing individuals who may be experiencing flashbacks of emotional trauma. So, what are some policies surrounding these service animals? When a person's disability is obvious, CU Boulder does not require documentation, such as proof that the animal has been certified, trained, or licensed as a service animal. Individuals accompanied by a service animal on campus who do not need any other disability-related accommodations are not required to register with Disability Services or the ADA's coordinator's office. Per the ADA, service animals are not required to have a vest, ID tag, or any specific harness. Colorado law allows dogs on campus who are being trained specifically as service animals for individuals with disabilities. There is no national organization that monitors service animals and no national registration system. Individuals with disabilities who are accompanied by service and assistance animals must comply with the same university rules regarding noise, safety, disruption, and cleanliness as people without disabilities. Who takes care of the service animal? Individuals with disabilities are responsible for the cost, care, and supervision of their service animals, including compliance with laws pertaining to animal licensing, vaccination, and owner identification, keeping the animal under control at all times, and feeding, walking, and disposing of animal waste. So only dogs, and in some cases miniature horses, can be service animals. But what animals can be an emotional support animal? Emotional support animals, usually referred to as ESAs, fall under the category of an assistance animal. Assistance animals provide emotional or other support that minimizes one or more identified symptoms or effects of a person's disability. This group includes therapy animals, emotional support animals, assistance animals, and comfort animals. Unlike service animals, however, assistance animals are not required to be trained to perform work or specific tasks, and they include species other than dogs and miniature horses. So, are ESAs allowed on campus? Generally, assistance animals are not allowed to accompany persons with disabilities in any academic or public buildings on campus. In some instances, students or faculty and staff with disabilities may be allowed to have an assistance animal within campus housing facilities with prior approval. Assistance animals do not qualify as service animals. So, what are the responsibilities of an individual with an approved ESA in the residence halls? Individuals with disabilities are responsible for the cost, care, and supervision of their service or assistance animal, including compliance with any laws pertaining to animal licensing, vaccination, and owner identification, keeping the animal under control at all times, and feeding, walking, and disposing of the animal. On screen is a visual representation of the requirements for service animals versus an emotional support animal. As we've previously stated, service animals are required to be specially trained, also known as task trained, and are allowed to accompany a person with a disability that uses them in all spaces. Whereas emotional support animals are not required to be task trained and have limitations on where they can accompany the person they are supporting. ESAs also can provide comfort to more than one person, whereas service animals only accompany the person who has a disability that they are trained to assist. On this slide, we will go over some general guidelines for CU members when interacting with individuals with service animals. Allow the service animal to accompany people with disabilities. Do not pet, interact, or feed a service animal as it distracts it from its work. Do not deliberately startle, tease, or taunt the service animal, and do not separate or attempt to separate a person from their service animal. Lastly, provide individuals with service animals with the right of way with respect to cyclists and skateboarders on campus. Under the following circumstances outlined on this slide, university officials may ask a person to leave with their animal if it is out of control and effective action is not taken to control it, if it is not housebroken, or if it poses a direct threat to the safety of others that cannot be mitigated by reasonable modifications of policy, practices, or procedures, or the provision of aids or services. As always, you are able to consult with disability services or the ADA compliance about any situation if you have any concerns. When it's not obvious if a dog is a service animal or not, it's hard to know what questions are permitted. When inquiring about a service animal, these questions are allowed. Is the dog required because of a disability? And what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? The Counseling and Psychiatric Services at CU, also known as CAPS, has a program with canine-assisted therapy. Students are able to request a canine therapist, also known as a CT, through their therapist. If the therapist feels that it is clinically appropriate, the therapist can book the CT and include them in a session with the student. Anyone who requests a CT will be asked to sign a consent form where they acknowledge that they do not have allergies or a fear of dogs. There is no limitation on how many times a student can book a CT as long as they have a scheduled session with their therapist or therapy group, and the therapist feels that it is clinically appropriate. CTs cannot be scheduled as a session alone with the student, as they are companions in the session along with the therapist. If you have any questions about canine-assisted therapy, feel free to reach out to CAPS with the contact information shown on screen. Thank you so much for your time today, and if you have any lingering questions, please feel free to reach out to either Disability Services or ADA Compliance. You can reach the Office of Disability Services by email at dsinfo@colorado.edu or by phone at 303-492-8671. And you can reach the ADA office or the ADA Compliance Office by email at the ADA coordinator@colorado.edu or by phone at 303-492-9725.